Hey, it's Dwight Blackburn again, and I wanted to make a short video on the modifications that I've made on a Titan train trucks. I've spent a lot of years trying to figure out how to make the adjusters work. Now, when I got these, I started off with these flat metal bars with a little round cam in the middle of them. And every time I would get the brakes on with a heavy load, the little cam would rotate and I would lose my adjustment. So I've spent many years literally looking for a way to adjust these brakes. So this is what I come up with. If you look at the top of it here, you can see there's I put the cylinder here for the air. I made these brackets to hold the cylinder, and the brakes are hung by these bars on each side, and that's the standard Titan brakes. It's similar to what he makes. So when you turn it over now, you can see here that I've made the adjusters on each side that will take the place of those flat bars that comes in his kits. You have a flat bar on the top and bottom here, and they move back and forth with that little, have a little roller in between that rolls against that bar to spread the bar to make it push on each wheel, and that's what causes it to have braking action. So I took the little flat bars out and the rollers out, and I made these are like turnbuckles. So you have a jam nut on each end, turn it in the middle to lengthen or shorten and get your adjustment on the brakes. Now up here on the top, when you squeeze this like you put air into it, it locks the wheels. You release it and it rolls. So with no air pressure, it rolls freely, and when you squeeze it by putting air into it, it retracts this piston. Then the wheels have braking action. Now I wanted to take this apart, and I wanted to show you what it looks like. Take just a second here to take these. These are shoulder bolts or shoulder screws I use. They're 1024 with a 1/4 inch shoulder on them, and they're hex head, and that holds the brakes together here, swinging on the. Okay, now if you take this off, okay, now you can see better how that this brake is made. And so when this is squeezed together, it spreads these shoes against each wheel. So this is how I came up with the idea of making a turnbuckle instead of having these little flat bars. And you can adjust these from the bottom. You can get underneath the car, you can loosen these and turn this and adjust it without taking the truck off of the car. If you'll notice on these spreader bars where the shoes hang, I thread the end of this bar, which he had a cap that snapped on. So I threaded this 1032, put a self-locking nut on it, I put a little piece of spring in here that I cut from just a spring that I get at a local hardware store.
Yeah.
This keeps the shoe pushed outward, and that causes the shoe to stay away from your flange.
Okay.
Now, I made this bracket here, which is a piece of flat bar with a washer weld on it, and then I just ream this out so that the cylinder will go in it. And this is how I hold my cylinder in place from this little bracket which I made, which is like this. So this will sit up on top here like this and hold the cylinder. Now this is the way those turnbuckles are made. So if you take the flat bars out of the Titan train brakes and just make these turnbuckles, that's all you need to do, is just to reattach these in there and adjust them. Now when you adjust them, you can adjust the one short and one long to move it over, or you can adjust it backwards and move it back over, or you can adjust it so that it will go further out or further in. So there's like 4 different adjustments on this one turnbuckle. These cylinders are Clippard cylinders. They're no longer available, and according to Clippard, they're no longer made.
Wow.
But a friend over in Atlanta has found a replacement for them. But you can also use the ones from Titan Train. So I hope this helps to understand how I made these modifications, and it's not that difficult to do. The hardest thing I had to do was to make these little U brackets. The little U brackets were made out of flat metal, and I had to buy a little special tool to bend them to make them. Okay, there's one other thing I need to tell you about, and that is when you're making these adjusters, there's a little roller here, which this little roller is a spacer that I got from McMaster Carr. This keeps it from binding up when the bar moves back and forth in the adjuster there. And this adjuster rod I also get from McMaster Carr. They come threaded with a left hand on one end and a right hand thread on the other end. So each one of them has to have a left and a right hand thread, and you'll have to get a left-handed nut and a right-handed nut, and you'll have to get a tap to tap the U connector left-handed thread. So all of this has got to be left-handed. One of them's got to be left-handed, one of them's got to be right-handed. So this is something you have to plan ahead for whenever you get your, if you're going to do this adjuster on your brakes. So if you're going to haul the public and have a heavy weighted car, this is the only way to go. This thing will actually take the abuse, and I put it on many cars at our club track at Mid-South Live Steamers, and they all seem to work really well. Have no complaints with everybody that I've put it on so far. So I hope this helps, and we can get away from those little rotating cams.